So today we're going to be talking about long multiplication. So long multiplication is when you are multiplying by a 2 or 3 digit number or a 4 digit number, but we're going to be focusing on 2 or 3, by another 2 or 3 digit number. So in the past, you've always had a longer number, so that could be like 247, but then you would be just multiplying that by a single digit number, like multiplying it by 5 or multiplying it by 6. But long multiplication, you're actually multiplying it by a 2 digit number or a 3 digit number, so we're actually multiplying by like 56, for example. Now, there are multiple ways of doing this. In this video, I'm going to be focusing on the column method, but you know, in class, we can definitely discuss different methods. But again, it would take me a long time to go through every method, so I'm just going to focus on the column method. So we're going to be starting off with 78 times 42. Okay, so I'll write up the sum up here, so 78 times 42. So what we're actually going to be doing, obviously I said we're going to be using the column method, which is true. But what the column method actually does here is it takes 42 and it splits it up into 40 and 2. And what we actually do is we do 78 times 2 and then 78 times 40, and then we get our answers and we add our answers together to get our final answer. That's what the column method actually does. Now I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to leave that written down so that we can discuss what I've written in a second. So I'm going to lay out my sum. Okay, so got this here. So first things first, I'm going to multiply by 2 because I said that's what we're going to do. We're splitting up our 42 into 40 and 2. So we're going to times by 2 first. So I'm kind of just going to ignore that this 4 is here for now. I'm just going to act as if this is 78 times 2. Okay, just like normal. Okay, so 8 times 2 is 16. Okay, and then 2 times 7 is 14. Add the 1. You get 15. Okay, so we've got 156. Okay, now we are going to multiply by 40. Okay, so 78 times 40. Now I want you to think about the last thing that we did, which was multiplying by multiples of 10, 100, 1,000, etc. That's what we're doing here. Okay, we're multiplying by a multiple of 10. Now, when we were multiplying by a multiple of 10, we split up into like 4 and 10. And we multiplied by 10 first and then multiplied our answer by 4. That's what we're going to do here, okay? We're going to put our answer just below this one. And we're just going to multiply by 10 first, then multiply by 4, okay? So if we're multiplying by 10, okay? Remember in the last video or what we're doing in class, if you're multiplying by 10, you move your number's one place value to the left, okay? And so, for example, if we had a 65 and we were multiplying that by 10, you would just move the 65 up 1, okay? You would move it to the left 1. But what would you have to do here? You have to fill this in with a 0, don't you? Okay? So you could actually kind of do that backwards. You could be like, oh, well, if I'm multiplying by 10, I can just chuck a 0 here, then write 65. It doesn't really matter what order you do it in. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. This 4 does not represent 4. This is in the tens column. This 4 represents 40. So we're going to multiply by 10 first. So I know my answer will have to move one place to the left. So I'm actually going to, oh, the words left me what I was about to say there. I'm going to, nope, it's gone. But I'm going to actually put the 0 here first. Preempt it. That's the word I was looking for. I'm going to preempt the fact that I'm going to do that and multiply by 10. And I'm just going to put a 0 there. And that's me kind of dealt with multiplying by 10. because I've already moved, that will force me to move my numbers to the left one. So by putting the 0 there, I've dealt with the multiplying by 10. Now I can just multiply by 4 like normal. Okay, so 4 times 8 is 32. Okay, and 4 times 7 is 28. Add the 3 is 31. Okay, now I have made the point about this before, but I think it's worth mentioning again, because in these questions especially, it's super, 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 super important. Please make sure you line up your numbers properly, okay? This is your ones column, this is your tens column, this is your hundreds column, this is your thousands column, okay? I have seen so many pupils mess this up. It's super easy if you know you're doing it on blank paper. So for example, if I just had like a bit of blank paper here and I was laying this out, so like 78 times 42, and you could just get a little bit messy if your handwriting's a bit all over the place. It might just be like, oh, who cares, kind of like that or whatever. But the next step that we need to do, if we remind ourselves up here, where we're splitting this up into 2 and 40, you were doing this, 78 times 2, 78 times 40, then we were adding our answers together. So what we're now doing here is we're adding 156 and 3,120. Now, if your working looks like that, actually, I've made this a little bit neat, to be honest, but it's so easy to add the wrong things. Okay, especially if you forget to put your 0, then you're totally messed up. But it's so easy to like accidentally add the 2 and the 6 together, or like the 3 and the 1 together, or whatever. It's so important that you are nice and neat and use the boxes in your jotter properly. Because as I said, the next thing that we're going to do is add our answers together. So 6 plus 0 is 6, 5 plus 2 is 7, 1 plus 1 is 2, and obviously we just have a 3 there. So 78 times 42 is equal to 3,276. Okay. So our next question is 247 times 56. So 247 times 56. So again, we are going to split this up into multiplying this by 6 and then multiplying this by 50. And then when we get our answers, we'll add those together. So we're laying it out. Oh, actually, put this here. Just like this. And just like last time, we are going to kind of ignore that the 5's there, because the first thing we're going to be doing is multiplying by 6. So we can just kind of, ignore that the 5's there entirely and just focus on the 6 for now. So 7 times 6 is 42. 6 times 4 is 24. Add the 4 is 28. 2 times 6 is 12. Add the 2 is 14. Okay. So I'm just going to rub these little guys out because I've dealt with them and it just makes it a little bit neater. Okay, you don't need to, but it just makes it a little bit neater. So our answer to this is 1,482. Now the next thing we're going to do is multiply by 50. Now, as I said, when we're multiplying by a multiple of 10 or 100 or 1,000 or whatever, we're splitting this up into 5 and 10. And the first thing we're going to do is multiply this by 10. Now, to multiply by 10, you move all of your numbers up one place value to the left. And what we can do is we can just pop a 0 in there, and that will force all of our values to move up one to the left. Okay, so that's it, multiplied by 10. Now we can just act as if this is a 5 and not 50. Okay, it is 50, but we've dealt with the 10 part of it. So now we can just multiply by 5. So now we're doing 5 times 7, which is 35. 5 times 4, which is 20, plus the 3, so 23. And then 5 times 2, which is 10, plus the 2, which is 12. Okay. Now we are going to add these. Remember, that's what we were doing. We're multiplying by 6, multiplying by 50, then adding these together. So I'm just going to add these. Make sure you are nice and neat with your boxes and your place values. So 2 plus 0 is obviously 2. 8 plus 5 is 13. 8 plus 3 plus 1 is 8. 1 plus 2 is 3. And we're left with the 1 there. So our answer to 247 times 56 is 13,832.